Budget reviews, resources and labor relations. Ms. Bathanti, do I say that correctly?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. The Human Resources budget can be found on page C44 of your budget document. And really, there's not a lot going on in Human Resources. They're adding no new positions for 2018. I think most significantly, there's been a reclassification of the special projects line item that HR used or has used for a number of years for legal services, as Mr. Hunt just pointed out, for arbitration hearings, Act 312 hearings, grievance hearings, that sort of thing. So that has historically been accounted for in special projects, which budgetarily rolls up to supplies and services. What we've done in 2018 is pulled $50,000 out of that line item and increased the contract services line item. So we have a line item within that category titled Contract Services Legal. So we're trying to correct that sort of thing, make it a little clearer going forward. So you'll see that the contract services line item has gone from $11,000 in 17 to $81,000 in 18. $50,000 is of that increase is just what I spoke about. In addition, Ms. Bathanti has requested another $20,000 for 2018, and she can speak more to that if you so desire. Regarding supplies and services, you'll see that the amended budget for 2017 was $129,000. The original budget in that line item, as adopted, was $85,200. Again, $50,000 of that represented special projects for legal services. We also came to you earlier this year when Eric Herpich was still the director and asked for a increase of $44,000 in that same special projects line item. And the reasoning for that at the time was, if you'll recall, in 2017 we added an attorney position in Corp Counsel to handle some of our internal legal matters. That person didn't come on board until May, so we were still using outside counsel for the first 4 or 5 months of the year. So we transferred $44,000 of the budget from Corp Counsel into HR. The net effect of all this is the supply and service budget exclusive of this legal fee matter as adopted in 2017 was about $35,200. We've reduced that slightly, very slightly, to $33,400 for 2018. So I know it's a little bit confusing because there's a few things going on there, but at the end of the day, essentially what's happening is Human Resources is asking for an additional $20,000 allocation for outside legal services. That's the simplest way to put it. Again, no new positions, and everything else is consistent among their budgetary line items. So I'll leave my comments to that. If you have any questions for me, certainly ask them, or I'll turn it over to Karen.
There are questions for you. Chair Smith.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Steve, you kind of answered my question, because normally when we have an increase in one of your line items, we see a corresponding decrease in another, unless we were actually requested as a board to increase the funding for that department during the year. So you're saying, and of course you remember better than I do or any of us, you guys did come to us for that increase from $85,200 to $129,356, whether it be in one or several different, okay.
One request.
Okay.
I can't remember the exact month, but it was earlier during the summer.
Okay, that's fine. I had a question on that, but you pretty much answered. I just wanted to be clear with everybody that that's what happened. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll go ahead with Karen then.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. How are you? I teased with Steve, this was my opportunity to ask for everything. No? Not, and he said not so much, right? So, yeah, Peter Jensen and Corporation Counsel has been a wonderful addition to their team. He has definitely helped us with some of our legal issues, arbitrations, lawsuits, et cetera, that definitely has cut the number of phone calls we're making to outside legal counsel. However, with our sheriff's department groups and the possibility of Act 312 binding arbitration, we do need expertise in that area outside of corporation counsel. So we definitely are concerned going into negotiations that we will definitely need that outside counsel adjustment made to our budget.
Okay, thank you. I don't have anybody requesting to speak on here. Okay, well, Commissioner Toko beat you to it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Karen, are there any positions in the clerk's office at this time that are temporarily moved to your office?
Yes.
Is that the plan to go forward, or is that a temporary plan?
Just temporary for this week.
Okay, so it's just
It was last week and this week.
okay. And is that that's how you want to keep it at this point, or is it?
That position is moving to the courts on Monday,
Okay, thank you.
6th floor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Carabelli.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This one's for Steve. Sorry. Steve, as you're coming up, maybe I didn't word this correctly before, but can you explain to me why, when you're presenting the budget to us to take a look at, you actually go into it and you'll say, for example, 2015 actual, 2016 actual, 2017 actual through July 31st, 2017 amended. See, what we need to do, I have to go back into my last year's budget book to see what was approved for 2017 and adopted. Not the number that you're amending, because you're not showing it, and we don't know when we're looking at these budgets. We have to go back and keep looking, because you're providing actuals year to date, which, to be honest with you, you're going to spend money at certain different times. As long as you're under budget at the end of the year, that's what we want. But without you providing that number for us on these, it's really making it difficult, because I don't know, you're allowed 10% within a department. You're not allowed to move from department to department unless it comes over to the board. But now I have to keep going back to the real budget of last year adopted to see what the number's supposed to be, and they're not matching up. Okay, you're $38,000 less than your amended 2017. Why aren't we showing that when you present this?
This is what's required by law. Certainly, we can
You
consider
understand?
adding it.
I don't know if I'm
Yeah.
talking
So we're
clearly.
trying to make the document understandable but not too cluttered. So that doesn't necessarily mean that for working purposes, for example, that we couldn't put in the adopted column.
Well,
So
the
that's something we can
adoption
certainly
should be
consider.
approved 2017, and you're amended,
Right,
because as a board, we're going to be voting on this, and you say, well, it was part of the amended budget, it was in front of you. And we don't know unless you go back and look to see what the actual adopted was.
right. So what you're asking, if I'm hearing you correctly, is for next year to include a column with the prior year's adopted
I
budget.
think it's the actual doesn't give us any information. The
Yeah, I
actual,
think that was requested for this year, so we added the actual year-to-date.
that's year to date, so that's kind of useless to us, isn't it? So
Well-
you don't have to make it, what's the useful nature of that?
I think the board requested that this year.
And they may
So
have,
it-
I don't recall.
Okay.
I guess the
All right.
usefulness in my mind would be that you're seeing what the spending pattern is during the year compared to prior years. There's some usefulness there, in my opinion, to see
again-
if you're headed toward the budget, but I also see the usefulness of the adopted number as well.
The adopted, you see, you show 2015, you show 2016 actual, 2017 actual through July 31st, 2017 amended. Well, that doesn't mean that amended was adopted by us. And that means if we vote to approve the budget, we're going to vote on the amended
No, I
2017.
completely understand where
And
you're coming
You may
from.
not, us board members, unless you're going back like I am through every little thing to see what it was supposed to
Right.
be, they're changing. And we're not getting notified of that change again, unless you're going to spend 3 hours and go through last year's budget at each line to see what it's supposed to be. And I don't know, I don't feel comfortable without looking at it, and that's why I have to spend my time to go through these things. And I think you already have the information, include it with what you're giving us. I don't know, that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I'm not, I certainly understand where you're coming from. Personally, we have time. I mean, it's obviously 9 months before we get into this procedure next year or process. I think we could probably go through and add that for next year. Now, granted, the format might look a little different because it's going to get, we might have to turn it sideways or something, but that's not a big deal.
Commissioner Brown.
I don't know if it's that big of an imposition to add that, amended actual. I mean,
It's not, we just have to go ahead and insert columns into worksheets. We have plenty of time to do it.
but I mean, doesn't it make sense? We want to know what the last, the adopted. It doesn't seem like Commissioner Carabelli, it makes a good point. It doesn't seem like it's asking.
No, I'm not
Should be
arguing
quick.
that it is
Should-
unreasonable.
I mean, it's obviously we want to see actual because we want to track the numbers. That's what I wanted. I think
Right.
that's a good thing to do. Now, don't take it out.
Right.
I'm just saying that it's.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting we would take it out. What I'm suggesting was we would add the adopted for next year.
Well, shouldn't that have been in there to begin with? I mean, isn't that pretty basic? Is that a fundamental thing if we're trying to review a budget to see what the.
Yeah, we were trying to get the format to comply with state law, is what we were doing. Not that we can't, at least for working purposes,
All right, thank
insert the
you.
other information, so you,
Okay.
can, deliberate the budget as you see fit.
Well, my point was I wanted to see the actual in there, so, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Commissioner Carabelli? I'm sorry, Leonetti.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It still ends with an I. It's okay. It still ends with an I. This question is for Karen. Karen, come on up. The compensation study, I was looking at your supplemental worksheet, and one of your goals for 2018, of course, is to classify the compensation study. Where are we at on that? Do we know when that's going to come out?
Yeah, absolutely. The project is moving along. We just received market data, so we are analyzing that. We were able to match about 90% of our positions with what's out in the market, so that was really good news. The recommendations are coming through in regards to who should be exempt, what position should be exempt and non-exempt. So we're hoping sometime in December, our team will come out and do a presentation just to our staff, and then we'll move forward with more presentations to the OCE and to our department heads, union leadership, and then talk about implementation. We do have wage reopeners next year, so this is probably the number one topic on our union's minds, to how this
Sure.
study is going to impact them.
This is just a general question, and you may not even have an answer for it, but it's like the dilemma that we have here on this board, and if you're self-employed, it's a dilemma too, is, okay, do we hire more people? The budget departments are asking for 24 new people.
Sure.
Executive is recommending 16. And then the other side of it is, okay, do I not hire more people, and do I pay the people that I have more for the work they're doing? So these variables are all there, and what we have to decide in terms of this budget. And this may be premature because we don't have the compensation study. So you don't have to answer this question if you don't want to go on the line. Do you have a gut feeling on what you think is a better approach? I mean, obviously certain departments need positions. I get that. But should we be compensating the people that we have here? I mean, because one of the other goals in your supplemental worksheet is retain.
Right.
Retain and recruit good talent here. And I know Commissioner Saugers talked about this quite a bit with the Sheriff's Department. We've got a lot of talent coming out of these academies, and they go right past Macomb County. They decide to go to other municipalities or other counties in terms of beginning their career in law enforcement. And so, what's your gut thought on that? If you want to go on a limb.
I have a few thoughts. The county has 1,900 positions, and we don't need 1,900 positions for 2,600 people. So when I look at our group of employees, I define it as bookends. We have our leadership group, and then we have just a ton of entry-level positions. I think we need to take care of our leaders in this organization and make sure that they are doing what they need to do in regards to mentoring, coaching, so that this middle group of employees find interest and it desirable to be a leader here in our organization, so that they don't leave and go somewhere else for more money. They have to see the value of being a public servant. So our leaders need to do that. This group here is it's fluid. They're coming and going and moving. We need to concentrate on this group of employees, our entry level, and help them guide their careers through the county and show value again in the 30-plus departments that we have. There's a home for them outside of that entry-level position. So there's a financial aspect to retaining employees, but I also, and I'm a true believer that money doesn't motivate. And I know there's going to be a lot of people who are going to argue that with me, of course. I tell the unions that all the time, that I don't believe that. Yeah, I think there are some positions that need more pay. For sure, but you have to also look at, too, we have many departments where there's a lot of overtime opportunities for them. We can't constantly do that and continue doing that. We're burning our staff out. And there are certain departments that have pools of part-time employees that supplement. That seems to work nicely for those employees or those departments that have a lot of overtime. So I don't know, I'm kind of all over the page with it.
No, I understand.
But I think there's a lot of factors here. We have to celebrate who we are and why this is a great place to work. And if we can get our leaders to understand the value of working here and promoting who we are to the people under them, I think we'll have more success of retaining as well.
And it would be important because if the leaders eventually retire and the middle people have left, now
Right.
we're going to, so, okay.
We don't
All right.
want to always look for leaders outside of the county. It's unfortunate, in my opinion, when we do that. But sometimes we have to because exactly of that reason.
Right.
That middle group has that junior leadership roles have left and have sought employment elsewhere.
Okay, well, thanks. I'll look forward to that study and your analysis sometime soon next year. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I don't see anybody else. I do have a quick follow-up on that. I heard you mention your department, department heads, the county exec's office, the unions. I didn't hear mention of a point where we receive that report and get an opportunity to go over it.
Okay. Yeah, I would assume that at some point that information is going to be available to you. I don't know the process and how it would flow to you. I'm not sure.
All right. Is the actual study done, and you're just trying to figure out how to make it work in our?
No, it is not done. We have a handful of questions that need to be answered. We have a handful of positions that we still need to gather some information on.
Okay. I would like to know when that document is completed. I don't know if the rest of the commission feels that way, but if we could follow up and if we could be told when the document is
Sure.
completed. Thank you. Anybody else have any questions? All right, motion to receive and file.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moved by Leonetti, support by Toko. Motion passes 13-0.